My name is Rachel, and if you'd asked me a year ago where I'd be today, I would have told you. Sitting at my desk in the corner of that cold, fluorescent-lit office. Same as every other day. Same cubicle. Same emails. Same soul-crushing routine. But life has a way of throwing curveballs when you least expect them. Sometimes they knock you flat on your back, and sometimes they set fire to everything around you until there's nothing left but ashes and determination. Let me start from the beginning because it's important you understand how this all began. It wasn't some grand scheme or calculated revenge plot. No, it started with something so small, so harmless, that looking back now feels almost surreal. A hobby. That's what he called it, a pathetic hobby. And maybe it was, by most people's standards. But hobbies aren't supposed to define us, are they? They're supposed to give us a little joy in an otherwise monotonous existence. At least, that's what I thought before everything went sideways. I've always been good with details. Numbers, spreadsheets, deadlines. It's like my brain thrives on structure. My job as an accounts manager at Sterling and Company, one of the city's top financial firms, suited me perfectly for years. Or so I believed. On paper, I had it all, a stable income, health benefits, even a reserved parking spot near the building entrance, which, trust me, is a bigger deal than it sounds. People respected me, or at least pretended to. I worked hard, played by the rules, and never rocked the boat. But outside of work, behind closed doors, I had another life. One that no one really knew about. Not my colleagues, not my boss, and certainly not him. You'll meet him soon enough. He's the kind of man who doesn't just walk into a room. He storms in, demanding attention, expecting everyone to bend to his will. The type who thinks charisma can mask cruelty. For now, let's just call him Mr. Sterling, though his real name isn't worth mentioning here. Anyway, back to me. Outside of the 9-to-5 grind, I spent my evenings creating things. Beautiful, intricate things that took hours of patience and precision. Paper quilling. Ever heard of it? Probably not. Most people haven't. It involves rolling thin strips of colored paper into delicate shapes and arranging them into stunning designs. Flowers, animals, landscapes, you name it. Each piece could take days, sometimes weeks, depending on its complexity. To me, it wasn't just art, it was therapy. A way to escape the relentless pressure of corporate life and reconnect with myself. It started innocently enough. A friend gifted me a beginner's kit for my birthday, and I found myself hooked almost immediately. There was something magical about watching those tiny strips transform under my fingers, taking shape and coming alive. Before long, my apartment walls were adorned with my creations, vibrant sunflowers, elegant peacocks, serene mountain scenes. Friends admired them during dinner parties. Coworkers occasionally complimented the framed pieces I brought to decorate my cubicle. No one ever guessed how much these little projects meant to me. And then came the day everything changed. It was a Tuesday morning, early spring. The air still held a chill, but sunlight streamed through the office windows, casting sharp lines across the carpeted floors. I arrived 10 minutes before my shift began, clutching a steaming cup of coffee and mentally preparing for the day ahead. Little did I know, fate had other plans. Mr. Sterling called me into his office shortly after lunch. His tone over the intercom was clipped, impatient, the way it always was when addressing someone below his lofty station. "Rachel," he barked my office. Now, the walk from my desk to his door felt endless. My heart pounded in my chest, each step heavier than the last. Was I in trouble? Had I missed a deadline? Forgotten to send an email? Nothing came to mind, but paranoia gnawed at me nonetheless. When I finally pushed open the heavy oak door and stepped inside, I found him seated behind his massive mahogany desk, arms crossed, lips curled into a sneer that sent shivers down my spine. "Close the door," he instructed without looking up. I obeyed, the soft click echoing like a gunshot in the silence. Only then did he raise his gaze to meet mine. His eyes were cold, calculating, devoid of any warmth or humanity. This wasn't unusual. Mr. Sterling prided himself on being intimidating. But today, there was something different, something darker. "You've been with the company for what?" "5 years," he began, leaning back in his leather chair. His voice dripped with condescension, each word carefully chosen to undermine me. "In that time, you've done adequate work. Nothing spectacular, mind you, but adequate." Adequate was a death sentence in his vocabulary. Adequate meant replaceable. Adequate meant expendable. However, he continued, gesturing vaguely toward the stack of papers on his desk, recently, concerns have arisen regarding your focus, your dedication to the role. Focus? Dedication? What was he talking about? Panic bubbled in my throat, but I forced myself to stay calm. Sir, I'm not sure I understand. If there's an issue— Oh, there's an issue, Rachel, he interrupted, cutting me off mid-sentence. A rather significant one, actually. Tell me, do you consider yourself a professional? The question caught me off guard. Of course I did. Didn't I? Yes, absolutely, I replied, my voice steady despite the storm brewing inside me. Then explain this. With a theatrical flourish, he slid a photograph across the desk toward me. My stomach dropped as I recognized it instantly. It was a picture of my latest quilling project, a breathtaking forest scene I'd spent nearly 3 weeks perfecting. I'd posted it online the previous evening, sharing it with a small community of fellow enthusiasts. How had he seen it? More importantly, why did it matter? This, he said, tapping the photo with a manicured finger, is what you choose to spend your time on. Childish crafts? Pathetic distractions? Do you have any idea how unprofessional this makes you look? Unprofessional. Distractions. Pathetic. The words hit me like punches, each one landing harder than the last. I opened my mouth to defend myself, to explain that my hobby had nothing to do with my performance at work, but he didn't give me the chance. In this company, we value ambition, drive, excellence. Not this. He waved dismissively at the photo. Effective immediately. You are relieved of your duties. Pack your things and leave. Security will escort you out. The room spun. Surely I'd misheard him. Fired? Over a hobby? It didn't make sense. But as 2 burly security guards appeared at the door, their expressions unreadable, I realized it was true. In less than 5 minutes, my entire world had crumbled beneath me. They marched me back to my desk, ignoring the curious stares of my coworkers. Some whispered behind their hands. Others avoided eye contact altogether. Shame burned in my cheeks as I shoved files and personal belongings into a cardboard box. The framed quilling piece I'd brought in, a simple daisy arrangement, sat among the clutter mocking me. Even it seemed to agree with Mr. Sterling. I wasn't good enough. By the time I reached the lobby, tears blurred my vision. The crisp April air slapped me in the face as I stumbled onto the sidewalk, clutching the box like a lifeline. Where was I supposed to go? What was I supposed to do? All I'd ever known was Sterling and company, and now that was gone. For weeks afterward, I wallowed in self-pity. Days blended together in a haze of unemployment checks and unanswered job applications. No one wanted to hire someone fired for lack of professionalism. Apparently, having a hobby made me unreliable. Who knew? But anger eventually replaced despair. Bitterness festered in my chest, growing stronger with each passing day. How dare he judge me? How dare he strip away my livelihood over something so trivial? The more I thought about it, the angrier I became. And anger, as they say, is a powerful motivator. One evening, while scrolling aimlessly through social media, I stumbled upon a post from someone I barely remembered, a former colleague named Mark. His caption caught my eye. Big news! Just landed a contract with Sterling and Company. Excited to work with such a prestigious client. Prestigious. The word made me laugh bitterly. Mark ran a struggling marketing firm, specializing in niche industries. How had he managed to secure a deal with Sterling and Company? Curiosity got the better of me, and I clicked on the link attached to his post. It led to his company's website, where a flashy banner advertised their newest campaign. Elevate your brand with custom artwork. Custom artwork. My blood ran cold. Could it be? Scrolling further, I discovered a gallery showcasing examples of their recent projects. Sure enough, there it was. A series of advertisements featuring vibrant, detailed illustrations. Illustrations that bore an uncanny resemblance to my quilling designs. Suddenly, everything clicked into place. Mark must have pitched the idea to Sterling and Company, using my work as inspiration. Without hesitation, I grabbed my phone and dialed his number. He answered on the 3rd ring, his voice cheerful and oblivious. Rachel, long time no see. How are you? I saw your post, I said bluntly, skipping pleasantries. About the Sterling and Company contract. There was a pause. Oh, yeah, it's a great opportunity. Really excited about it. Those illustrations, I pressed. Where did you get them? Another pause, longer this time. Well, they're based on some public domain stuff, mostly. Why? Don't lie to me, Mark. Those designs are mine. My quilling pieces. You stole them. He stammered, trying to backtrack, but I cut him off. Listen carefully, I said, my voice low and dangerous. You screwed me over once. Don't think I won't make sure it happens again. Hanging up, I felt a surge of adrenaline coursing through my veins. Revenge wasn't part of the plan, at least not initially, but now that the seed had been planted, it refused to die. If Mr. Sterling thought firing me was the end of our story, he was dead wrong. Dead wrong indeed. Over the next several months, I dedicated myself to turning my hobby into something far greater than I'd ever imagined. I poured every ounce of energy, every shred of creativity, into refining my craft. Hours turned into days, days into weeks, until my apartment resembled less of a living space and more of a studio. Walls lined with shelves groaned under the weight of completed projects, each one more intricate and breathtaking than the last. Word spread quickly within the tight-knit quilling community. Fellow artists praised my work, encouraging me to share it with a wider audience. At first, I hesitated. Memories of Mr. Sterling's disdainful sneer lingered fresh in my mind, whispering doubts in my ear. What if no one cared? What if I failed again? But deep down, I knew I couldn't let fear hold me back, not this time. Taking a leap of faith, I launched my own online store. The process was daunting, filled with technical jargon and frustrating glitches, but I persevered. Every late night spent troubleshooting website issues, every painstaking effort to photograph my pieces in perfect lighting. It all paid off when orders began trickling in. Slow at first, then steadily increasing as word of mouth spread. Strangers from across the globe marveled at my creations, leaving glowing reviews and messages of admiration. Encouraged by the positive response, I expanded my reach. Social media became my ally, allowing me to connect directly with potential customers and showcase my work in ways traditional galleries never could. Videos of me crafting intricate designs garnered thousands of views, sparking conversations and collaborations I'd never dreamed possible. Artists reached out, eager to learn from me. Businesses sought partnerships, hoping to incorporate my unique style into their branding efforts. Yet, amidst the whirlwind of success, one goal remained firmly etched in my mind: Sterling and Company. It haunted me like a ghost, whispering reminders of the injustice I'd endured. Every email notification, every package shipped, fueled my determination to reclaim what had been stolen from me, not just my dignity, but my rightful place in the industry. Which brings us to today. Sitting here surrounded by evidence of my hard-won achievements, I feel a strange mix of emotions. Pride battles with bitterness, satisfaction wrestles with longing. Because while revenge may taste sweet, it also leaves a bitter aftertaste, one that refuses to fade until justice is served. And justice, dear reader, is exactly what I intend to deliver. As my business grew, so did my confidence. The once timid woman who had been humiliated in Mr. Sterling's office was gone, replaced by someone stronger, bolder, a version of myself I barely recognized but deeply admired. My quilling pieces became more than just art. They were a testament to resilience, creativity, and the power of turning pain into purpose. But revenge wasn't something I could rush. It required patience, strategy, and above all, proof. Proof that Sterling and Company had crossed ethical boundaries when they stole my designs through Mark's underhanded pitch. And thanks to my growing network, I finally found it. One evening, while scrolling through an online forum for designers, I stumbled upon a post from someone claiming to have worked on Sterling and Company's latest marketing campaign. Attached was a screenshot of internal emails between Mark and one of their executives. The subject line read, *Rachel's quilling designs approved for use. My hands trembled as I zoomed in on the image. There it was, my work, unmistakably mine, being discussed without my knowledge or consent. Worse still, there was no mention of compensation or credit. They weren't just using my art, they were exploiting it. For weeks I gathered evidence. Screenshots, testimonials, even reaching out discreetly to former colleagues who confirmed what I already suspected. Sterling and Company had knowingly profited off my creations. Armed with this information, I hired a lawyer, a sharp, no-nonsense woman named Patricia who specialized in intellectual property cases. Together, we drafted a cease and desist letter demanding not only immediate removal of my designs from their campaigns, but also financial restitution for unauthorized use. When the letter arrived at Sterling and Company's headquarters, chaos erupted. Within days, news outlets picked up the story, painting Mr. Sterling as the villain he truly was. Headlines blared accusations of corporate theft and exploitation, tarnishing the company's pristine reputation overnight. Clients began pulling contracts left and right, unwilling to associate themselves with such blatant misconduct. And then came the lawsuit. Not from me, at least not directly, but from several smaller businesses who claimed Sterling and Company had similarly plagiarized their ideas over the years. Apparently, I wasn't the first victim. As the scandal unfolded, Mr. Sterling found himself cornered, his carefully constructed empire crumbling around him. His attempts to spin the narrative fell flat, overshadowed by mounting evidence and public outrage. Meanwhile, my star continued to rise. Major publications featured interviews with me, highlighting how I'd turned adversity into triumph. Galleries reached out, eager to host exhibitions of my work. Even celebrities commissioned custom pieces, further cementing my status as a rising force in the art world. What started as a quiet hobby had transformed into a global phenomenon, one that refused to be ignored. Months later, the court case concluded with a settlement in my favor. Sterling and Company was ordered to pay substantial damages, not just to me, but to every artist they'd wronged. The judgment sent shockwaves through the industry, serving as a stark reminder that creativity deserves respect and protection. For Mr. Sterling personally, the fallout was catastrophic. Stripped of his title and influence, he faded into obscurity, reduced to little more than a cautionary tale whispered among boardrooms. As for me, life took on a rhythm I'd never imagined possible. I moved out of my cramped apartment and into a sunlit loft overlooking the city skyline. One entire wall served as a gallery space where visitors could admire my creations, while another housed shelves filled with awards and accolades. My days were spent crafting new designs, mentoring aspiring artists, and advocating for stronger protections for creators everywhere. The cherry on top? A partnership offer from none other than Mark, the same man who'd betrayed me. He begged for forgiveness, promising he'd only acted out of desperation after years of struggling to keep his marketing firm afloat. To his credit, he seemed genuinely remorseful. Still, I couldn't bring myself to trust him completely. Instead, I struck a deal. He'd help promote my work exclusively, ensuring proper credit and fair compensation moving forward. If nothing else, it felt poetic, watching him grovel before the very talent he'd once tried to exploit. On a crisp autumn afternoon, I stood outside Sterling and Company's former headquarters. The building now bore a new nameplate belonging to a tech startup focused on ethical innovation. A fitting end, I thought, smiling to myself. As leaves swirled around my feet, I realized something profound. Vengeance hadn't healed me. It was success that had. Success built on passion, perseverance, and the unshakable belief that I deserved better. That night, surrounded by friends, family, and fellow artists at a celebratory dinner, I raised a glass. To second chances, I said, my voice steady and full of pride, and to proving that sometimes the best revenge is living well. Cheers echoed around the room, warm and genuine. For the first time in years, I felt whole. Not because I'd destroyed Mr. Sterling, but because I'd rebuilt myself, stronger, brighter, unstoppable. And that, dear reader, is where my story ends. Not with bitterness, but with hope. Not with anger, but with joy. Because sometimes life gives you lemons, and if you're lucky, you turn them into masterpieces.